Alright, welcome to Tuesday Tips, episode 38, 6x6 centers, part 1. I was going to make it one video, but I realized that there's way too much stuff to go over in 6x6 centers, so this is going to be part 1 of a 2-part episode. Next week, there'll be part 2. Here's how it's going to work. Part 1 is going to be more of 6x6 centers theory. Not really theory, but like kind of the general idea I have when I do my advanced centers. And part 2 will be more specifics, like what are you looking for inspection? How do I do specifically second center or specifically last 2 centers? More stuff like that. So this is going to be kind of a broader look at 6x6 centers. But we're still going to be pretty specific because there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in 6x6 centers. So when we're talking about 6x6 centers, the biggest 2 things here, let me get another 6x6 just at the ready. Let me just have 2 6x6s going. So the biggest thing is, so the first thing you learn when you do 6x6 centers is you make your bars, right? So let's make a green bar. So we got a green bar. That's building block 1, and then we're gonna make our second bar, and then we make 1 bar at a time. That's the beginner way to do centers. And then I've made videos before about second way to do centers is that you kind of you should be looking for other options. If something's really easy, like man, you see this, man, you just happen to have this. That's a lot. You should make sure you pair up a 2x4. I've made advanced videos about you should be looking out for these things, but in expert video, we're gonna straight up say bars suck. Bars are terrible. Everything you know is wrong. This is very advanced stuff. Like bars are fine to get honestly sub 150, probably even sub 140, but really when you're building centers, bars are bad because here's why. Not because they take more moves or like they're just super inefficient. It's because bars are never already made for you. There's so many other center ways to do centers that are literally just like waiting out there that are already made for you. It's actually ridiculous. So here are my favorite way to do centers in advanced method. This stuff, again, really, really tricky. Like not 100%. I've never done like the math on move count or anything. This is kind of like my feelings. But I've found that bars are bad. Well, okay, not that bad. They're like usually pretty good. I do a lot of bars, to be honest. But you usually have to build most of the bar yourself. In a lot of cases, there's something like already sitting out there for you. Like, look, okay, this is actually a bar case. This is a bar case. Okay, I might have exaggerated how bad they are, but they're not nearly as good as you thought they were. So let's say this is a pretty common start right here. We got this 2x2 up here. This is probably the most common way I start my first center because of how often it's easy. Or maybe not the most common, but it's very, very common. So 2x2 right here. We could throw down this little piece right here. We got a bar, then we could find some corners and then make another bar right here. Or what's a lot of times is going to be out there is like, you have something like this. Now we have, we got this bar here, and then, look, we got this. And then do you see what we did right there? I did it kind of quick, so I'll kind of undo. We had this 2x2 block here. And instead of building bars with it, we built 2x1s and 2x1s. This is kind of the whole basis of super advanced 6x6 centers, is building 2x4s from 2x1 pieces. This is really flexible, which is why it's so good. So there's a bunch of different options you can do it. The most common way that I found is 2 bars. You make a 2x4 on the one side. You can make it in the middle. Well, I guess there's only 2 options. You either make it on the side or you make it in the middle. So if you're making it on the side, you find the good start is a 2x2 like this, or a 2x2 like this is a good start, pretty much. Or you can have something along the lines of starts like this are fine. Also, where you see this one can go either way. You can either make 2 bars with these 2 pieces and these 2 pieces, or you can make 2 bars like this and this. It's just kind of how the cube is set up. Key is you need to be able to do whatever is best for the cube. In this case, you'd see, wow, 1 move for this bar, 3 moves, and then boom, 2x4. If you do the same thing, you could have gone like this, and then, you have this bar, and then just a lot of moves. That's like 5 more moves to get the same result, and not that good. So the key there is 2x1s for 2x4 bars on the side. That is probably one of the most important things that you can learn. Really, there's not much else to say about it besides like it's just really hard to get used to. The hardest thing is realizing, okay, so I have, say you have this. You got this right here. So what you got to do next is, the hardest part right here is figuring out which oblique matches this spot right here. In this case, it's this one. But like, if you're like, oh, I need to make this oblique right here, and you're just looking around the cube, you're like not sure which one it is. This is what's hard to get used to about 2x4 bar or building 2x1s. Now, since I've done this for years, I know it's this oblique and this piece right here. And I can do that. But like, just that level of recognition is already like really tricky, and something that's difficult to get used to. So that's kind of the key, the biggest key, like the simplest part of super advanced 6x6 edges is doing a lot of 2x4 block building with 2x1s, either on the outer 4 or the middle, either on the outer 2 bars or the middle 2 bars. I'll also give you an example of middle 2 bars as well. So middle 2 bars are actually a little more flexible, because in this specific case, say you're building your middle 2 bars, and there's a couple different ways to do it. So you build your middle 2 bars the same way. It's a little easier because this is essentially just a 4x4 center, so it's kind of easy. You don't want to like build the whole thing. You'd only do this if it's like obviously already set up for you. Obviously, I'm not going to mention it too much, but bars are good if they're already like in an easy position. I've made videos of bars in the past. Essentially, with everything super advanced, if it's easy, you do whatever is the easiest. And bars, if it's the easiest, definitely do it. I'm just not going to kind of go into it right now because I've already been over it. So there's two different ways how like building the middle bars work. Is if you build the middle bar, perfect, you got 2 bars. But say now you got some corners going on and you're building this middle bar, it quickly turns into a 5x5 center case, where if you're building the 2 middle bars, you got some corners sitting around, you're like, this is a 5x5 case, or man, you just built a T, and then you can build another 5x5 bar or centerpiece, and then bam, you got 3 edges right there. Or this quickly also turns into like, oh, I got an extra corner, and I could finish that bar like this, or I could just make a 3x3, and then I make another 3x1, and I got 3 bars right there. There's a lot of flexibility in terms of building the middle 2 bars and then kind of transitioning into a 5x5 style center you got going. So let's see. So that's the middle bars. That's really all there is super tricky about the middle bars. For the outer bars, besides actually building them, there's a lot of kind of extensions you do as you like finish them. So say you got something like this. Oh, you need your last 2x1. Oh, I got a full bar here. Well, you can place this, and then this is simple and obvious, but like, oh, you place this, and you immediately still preserve these, so you just start working straight off of this stuff and stuff kind of like that. So a lot of the kind of extensions to 2x1 bar building or 2x1 4x2 building is kind of more intuitive and will show up in walkthrough solves I do later, and it's not really too useful to go into right now, I don't think. So let's see, what else did I have written down? Center, edge, all right, 2x2, 3x3. So that's most of kind of the big talking points over the general specifics of 6x6 centers. So I guess it wasn't as in-depth as I originally thought. I think I'm going to actually make a part 3 to 6x6 centers where I do walkthrough solves. Yeah, I think next week is going to be more specific, like what to look for inspection, how to do your second center. They're in specific tricks for specific centers, and then the week after we walk through solves, where if when I'm building like my 2x4s, I'll show you like specific stuff. Like that's where a lot of the more very, very minute details that shave off like half a second at a time come into play for 6x6 centers. But yeah, so yeah, that's kind of the biggest thing for 6x6 centers. Bars are bad unless they're already done for you. The key is that bars just a lot of times aren't already done for you. 2x1s, the only other thing I have to say about 2x1s and 4x2s is that they're very difficult to do, and they're a lot easier when there are options. What I mean by that is, say you built a 4x2 right here, and now I would highly recommend doing bars for the next 4x2, because if you try and build a 4x2 straight up here with 2x1s, it gets really tricky because there's a very limited number of options for the pieces you build. Like, oh, I couldn't even use that. Now, where are my pieces I'm looking for? It's a recognition for 2x1s is very difficult, and it's already difficult enough when you have multiple options per piece. When you only have one piece like this, the piece right here, there's only like one piece left that can go there. There's only one corner. Well, I guess there's 2 options for the other bar, but there's like 4 options when you're building it on the left side, or on the first 4x2. So when there's minimal options, it gets really tricky, and I wouldn't recommend that. I only do a 4x2 with 2x1s to finish a bar, or to finish a center, if it's like super easy, because it gets super tricky after that. So yeah, 4x2s on the right, 4x2s in the middle. Stay away from. Don't stay away from bars. Like, if they're exactly the same move count, obviously do whatever is finger friendly. I'm just saying that bars are usually not nearly as good as they seem. They're gonna seem good because you're used to them, but in reality, if you just kind of like open your mind to the idea that 4x2s are out there, it's gonna get a lot faster, and there's so many more options out there. So yeah, that's the tip for this week. Next week, more in-depth look about specific centers, what you do at each step in your center, and then I think the week after that will be some 6x6 center walkthroughs. See ya.